Hello, Nyy'zai of planet Earth. My name is Zai Nyy'zai, and in this episode we're going to be talking about social alchemy for the Nyy'zai. Social alchemy is basically the energetic interplay between two or more mojos. It can be much more complex and more profound than that, but today we're going to be focusing on the basics of social alchemy for right now, which is going to be between yourself as the Nyy'zai and between one or more other mojos. In social alchemy, what's being read is the alchemic relationships between you and the other person or persons and how they're hitting you and your powers. So that's how you're reading them, and it's the alchemy. So you're literally reading the soup that forms between the two or more of you. All mojos are designed so they can interact positively with productive harmony with any other mojo. So it's a question of how difficult that is to do both energetically and skill-wise. The closer mojos are to you as far as their relative nature to you, as well as the way that you are designed, the easier it's going to be to find socially harmonious ways of doing things. But you can do this with any group, and so that's what you're supposed to do. Find out how you can work with all humans. And social alchemy teaches you how to do that. However, in order to get to all of the other mojos, then you need to kind of build up your energetic fluency. And to do that, you need to start with mojos that are more native to you, and then begin to reach out further and further into your social alchemies until you get all of the humans. The first social alchemy grouping is the design recognition. And this is basically recognizing in other humans your same design. That is, other mojos that are also Nyy'zai like yourself. That means that these people will also have Ni, Zai, Ji, and Vai in that order. Doesn't matter what nationality they are, doesn't matter, what ethnicity they are, what level of development they are, what they're doing in life. Or they could even be doing something that's super great and that you thought that you were nothing like them, but maybe you aspire to be them. Recognizing that you have this energetic kinship is going to be a very big step, one of the biggest steps into kind of understanding and truly loving yourself as a Nyy'zai. Your next grouping is your inspirational partner. Now, as a Nyy'zai, you have Ni, Zai, Ji, and Vai. And that implies that you have another mojo that has their powers in an energetic ranking that's inspirational to yours, and yours are inspirational to them. That would be the Nyy'zai, who has Nai, Z, Jai, and V. This is your energetic partner who you do the inspirational dance with. Together, you make one complete conscious and unconscious storyline, a connection of all 8 powers on the correct hierarchical levels to make the storyline of the Nyy'zai. Your next social alchemy grouping is going to be your same source partner. Now, as a Nyy'zai, you are a Ni Alpha. So that means your same source partner is going to be the other mojo that has Ni as the source power, which is the Nyy'zai. You can think of the Nyy'zai as being kind of like your cousin mojo. They begin with Ni, but it has a compound relationship with a different power. And so to truly kind of understand your Ni, what Ni actually is, then you also have to understand the Nyy'zai, because together you make up what Ni actually is in the much greater sense. Your next social alchemy grouping is your inverse mojo partner. Now, the inverse partner is going to be the other mojo that has the same momentum compound that you do. So as a Nyy'zai, you have Ni and Zai. There's another mojo that has the Ni with Zai compound. That would be the Zai Ni. However, the Zai Ni, they have Zai as a source instead of Ni, but they do still, like you, have both the Ni and the Zai as their momentum powers. And so this is a creature who can teach you a lot about yourself, can teach you a lot about your own powers, because they are experiencing reality in a very similar way that you are, but with a different hierarchical ranking of powers, of the same powers. So these two mojos are a very important partnership, and they can help each other learn a lot about each other and really bonus each other's powers. So these core groups that I've given you, all of the starting duos, these are going to be kind of the core social alchemy partnerships that you're really going to understand yourself the most from. Other Nyy'zai, Nyy'zai, the Nyy'zai, and the Zai Ni. You're going to notice that these four mojos are in a lot of your other groups. So let's get to know those other groups. So let's now get into the quartets, which are the social alchemy groupings of four mojos. We begin with the source song quartet. Now the source song has to do with which channel a certain mojo leads with. As a Nyy'zai, you begin with the interpretive power, or the interpretive channel. So you are a Nez Alpha. This puts you in the Nez Alpha social alchemy groups. Among the Nez Alpha, you have yourself, the Nyy'zai. You also have the Nyy'zai. You have the Nyy'zai, which we covered already. What we haven't talked about yet is the Nyy'zai. So all of these mojos are going to share a certain energetic fluency with each other as they all begin their story on the Nez channel. Next, we have your storyline quartet. Now the storyline quartet has to do with which two channels are the most native to you. So for you as a Nyy'zai, then that would be the Nez channel and the Zez channel. And all of the cerebrals have the Nez and Zez channel, or Zez and Nez channel. Order doesn't really matter. So it has to do with the kind of inspirational compounds that are between Nai and Z, as well as Z and Zai, in either order. This includes both the Nezez as well as Zenez. So the cerebrals are yourself, a Nyy'zai. They are the Nai-Z. They are the Zai Ni, and a new one is the Z Nai. Next, we have the change flow quartet. Now, change flow is basically which social alchemies have the greatest tolerance or affinity to change and progression versus their tolerance or affinity to steadiness and meticulousness. As a Nyy'zai, you are a Nez Alpha, and so you're going to have the greatest affinity toward change and progression, and the least affinity toward steadiness and meticulousness. So this puts you in the first wave with all the other Nez Alpha. So the first wavers are the Nyy'zai, the Nyy'zai, the Nai-Z, and the Nai-Ji. Now you're going to notice that these were all Nez Alpha. So this grouping for you, the first wavers, are also Nez Alpha, in this case specifically. However, the social alchemy grouping of change flow is not just a copy paste from the source song quartet. The math is consistent only for first wavers, which are Nez Alpha, and fourth wavers, which are all going to be Vez Alpha. So you're only going to see this math with the lead perceivers. The lead discerners, second and third wave, it's different math. So don't think of it as just being kind of a copy paste from source song. Next, we have the special club quartet. Now the special club quartet, the way that these mojos are grouped are going to be based on the kind of environments, the kind of atmospheres that are most conducive to them. Now, this has to do with, one, whether this kind of environment is one that favors kind of objective or subjective ways of being, but also the language that the information that's being passed by in. Is it kind of an interpretive language, or is it the literal language? As a Nyy'zai, you are going to be, you are an objective interpretive. So this means that you kind of favor the more outward-oriented sort of environment, but also you favor environments where the interpretive, pattern-based language is being passed along. So in addition to the Nyy'zai, there's also the Nyy'zai, there is the Ji-nai, and then there's also going to be the Z-nai. So now we're going to start going into quartets that are going to begin to get a bit more further out from your native way. Let's start with the perception quartet. The perception quartet are all of the mojos that use the same primary perception that you do. In your case, as a Nyy'zai, it is Ni that is your primary perception. And so everyone else in the perception quartet are going to be Ni mojos. They're all going to be the mojos that have dancing eyes. So we have yourself, the Nyy'zai, we have the Nyy'zai, and we have the Zai Ni, like myself, which we've gone over already. we have a new member, which we haven't seen yet, which is the Nyy'zai. So all of these are their Nyi mojos, and they're all going to have the dancing eyes of a Nyi mojo. Your next social alchemy grouping is the discernment quartet. Now, we've already went over kind of the eyes quartet with the perception quartet. Now we're going over the face quartet, basically. So the discernment quartet has to do with what your face and what your cheeks and mouth is doing. And this has to do with the interplay between your logic-based and values-based discernment powers, how they are arranged in your energetic hierarchy. Since you are a Nyy'zai, then you are a Zai mojo. Your Zai is above your Nyi. So that means you're going to have a native Zai face, which is basically the baseline stone face with the localized Ji. So in this grouping, you have yourself, the Nyy'zai. We also have the Zai Nyi. Then also we have two mojos which we have not encountered yet. The Zai V as well as the V Zai. Next is the Psyche Priority Quartet. And we kind of already went over the quadrants, the 4 priorities. And so other mojos that are going to be in the same Psyche Priority Quartet as you are going to be other mojos that start, their source power is in the Stimulus Register Quartet. So these are going to be the gatherers, all of the mojos that have a gatherer power, either Nyi or V, as their source power. So in this quartet, there's going to be yourself, the Nyy'zai, the Nyy'zai, and the V-zai, which we've already seen, but a new one that we have not seen yet is the V-zai. So in order to understand the totality of what it means to be a gatherer, you're going to have to get in touch and build relationships with all of these mojos, including the V-zai and the V-zai. Next, we have the Shades of Consciousness Quartet. Now, as a Nyy'zai, you have Nyy'zai, Ji, and Vi. Now, if you take those 4 powers, there are 3 other ways you can arrange them. This creates the Shades of Consciousness grouping. The Shades of Consciousness Quartet are the 4 mojos that you get from the combination of certain 4 powers. In this case, it's the power of Nyy'zai, Ji, and Vi. So that would give you the Nyy'zai, like yourself, the Zai Nyi, and now we're going to start getting into 2 other mojos that we haven't gotten into yet. 2 that are very different from you as a Nyy'zai. The Ji Vi and the Vi Ji. These 2 mojos, their native way is very different from yours as a Nyy'zai, but also very similar at the same time, as these mojos are also using the same 4 powers that you are. And so you could think of it as they're experiencing reality in an extremely similar way, using a very similar tool set, not the same tool set. It's kind of the same tool set, but just weighted differently. And so very different from you, but they're all a part of the same whole. And so kind of in order to understand the totality of what you are, then you must also understand your Ji and Vi through the Ji Vi and the Vi Ji. Next, we have the octets. So these are going to be groups of 8 mojos, and these groupings will all have to do with the energy fields. Basically, which are the mojos that have the same energy field that you do, whichever energy field is in question. The most important energy field is the adaptive and directive field. So as a Nyy'zai, you are an adaptive mojo. This is because your momentum powers are adaptive powers, making you an adaptive mojo. Next, we have the objective and subjective energy fields. As a Nyy'zai, your source power is Nyi. Nyi is an objective power. That makes you an objective mojo. Next is the perception lead or discernment lead octate. Basically, these are 2 groupings that depend on whether the mojo leads with perception or leads with the discernment. As a Nyy'zai, you are a Nyi alpha. That means you lead with a perception power. So you're a perception lead mojo. Next is the social alchemy grouping of interpretives and literals. As a Nyy'zai, you're an interpretive mojo, and this is because your primary perception, Nyi, is an interpretive perception. Next, we have the logic-based and values-based octets. As a Nyy'zai, you are logic-based, and this is because your primary discernment is a logic-based discernment. That makes you a logic-based mojo. Next is the perception modulation quartets. Now, every mojo that has Ni must also have Vi, regardless of what order it is. And every mojo with Nyi must also have Vi, or Vi with Nyi, either order. This creates 8 mojos with Ni and Vi, either order, and 8 mojos with Nyi and Vi. As a Nyy'zai, you have Ni with Vi, and there are 8 other mojos that have Ni and Vi together as well. Next is the discernment modulation octets, and that's pretty much the same concept, only with the discernment powers this time. Ji and Zai always come together. Zhai and Zi always come together. As a Nyy'zai, you have Zai and Ji, so that puts you with the Zai and Ji modulation octet. Then finally we have the human collective grouping, which is every human. It includes all mojos. So you are a part of humanity, and you are part of a math that connects all humans, all mojos together. They're all a part of the same storyline. As vastly different as many mojos can be, they're all interconnected in that the 8 powers are in each and every one of them. They're all interwoven together in this extremely complex math that creates this mosaic of just one beautiful storyline that connects you with the story of humanity. So together, you are a beautiful magical creature in a beautiful magical tribe of humans. So know yourself, grow yourself, and save the world.